Since the next two Honkai updates are rumored to be 9 weeks, I thought this was a perfect time to get into other gacha games. I put a poll up a few weeks ago asking if I should play ZZZ, Wuwa, or both. That third choice was kind of an illusion because I already played some Wuthering Waves and that video should be coming after this one. Zenless Zone Zero did win the poll though, so I did play that one first, and I did plan on doing some videos about it. That is until I realized that ZZZ kinda sucks. I was not having any fun in the 11 hours I played this, and when I realized that, I scrapped the videos and made this review. I played chapters 0, 1, and 2, and I fully understand that these are the beginning chapters. These chapters were in 1.0 when the game first released, and the later chapters might be better, but I just have to talk about my thoughts so far, because it's not good. Our main characters are Belle and her brother Weiss, along with Anby, Billy, and Nicole, who are part of a group called the Cunning Hares. They live in the town of New Eridu, and they're facing off against the calamity known as Hollows. From my understanding, Hollows are like the Upside Down from Stranger Things. They are little pocket dimensions that mirror our world, except everything in there wants to kill you. Specifically, monsters called ethereals. Nicole, Anby, and Billy's job is to go into Hollows and save people, since people sometimes fall into them. Belle and Weiss are their guides. They take control of these creatures called Banbu, and are tasked with guiding the Cunning Hares out of Hollows in the safest way possible. In Chapter 0, there is a strong box that Nicole really wants, because it contains something that allows people to traverse through the Hollows whenever you want. It's in possession of these bad guys. The Cunning Hares try and get it back, but a scuffle happens and it ends up falling into a hollow. When the gang goes into that hollow to retrieve it, Belle gets hacked and forcibly taken out of the Banbu. Belle and Weiss outsmart the hacker, get back in the Banbu, the gang retrieve the strong box, and get out of the hollow safely. Or so they think. After they get out, Belle collapses and wakes up to a strange voice asking if Belle agrees to everything it said. She says yes in a daze and finds out that voice is an AI called Fairy that randomly shows up telling them that it's tasked to help us until the opportunity comes. Sweet, this is what we get for not listening to terms and conditions before agreeing. This has become a PSA. That's where the chapter ends, and with all that exposition out of the way, let me tell you this took almost 2 hours to get through. Am I saying this was a little padded out? Kind of, yeah. I'm not talking about the part where we run around the city doing commissions. That's teaching me how the game works and what a prologue is supposed to do. I'm talking about the cutscenes and dialogue in general. I feel like there were some unnecessary scenes that padded out the runtime and added nothing. Another issue I came across was tone. This game cracks jokes every 10 to 30 seconds, and that's fine. Hoyoverse wants to make this a more comedic experience than their other games, and that's cool. I think it came with some unexpected downsides though. The game pulls the comedy card so much that at times, I don't know if I should be worried for the main cast or laughing along and having a great time. Those two things made me not like the prologue very much, but at the time, I understood it was only the prologue, and in hindsight, it wasn't that bad. This was the setup, and setups are always iffy. So I went along with Chapter 1, and I know I just complained about the prologue being a bit padded out, but I wish it was more padded out after I finished the rest of what I played. Chapter 1 was about someone named Nekomata that lost a family heirloom. That heirloom is in custody of the bad guys known as the Red Fang Gang. Simultaneously, a corporation named Vision is planning to demolish some of New Eridu to build their own stuff. They say that they evacuated everyone from the demolition site, but they lied and are happy happy to blow up a bunch of people in the name of progress. So our team must find Nekomata's heirloom as well as stop Vision. I'll say it, this chapter's decent. The Vision plotline gives immediate stakes to the story. Nekomata is a pretty funny character, and we learn that the Red Fang gang used to be good people but became evil after being orphaned. There's a reveal that Nekomata was a part of the Red Fang gang but drifted apart after they became evil, and she originally came to the Cunning Hares with bad intentions, revenge for something. But after seeing their kind-hearted ways, she now wants to help them. With Nekomata's help, the Cunning Hares evacuate everyone and stop Vision. It's a pretty wholesome story with a good ending and a nice picture attached to it. My favorite character so far in the entire game is ironically the one that shows up the least. There's a scene where a maid named Corinne is stuck behind a train and she acts scared, but then saws part of the train in half and gets out herself. Her character is really funny to me. She always acts scared, but she's a total warrior that will beat you up in a fight and can handle everything on her own, no problem. Even her ultimate shows her scared while she takes out her saw and demolishes ethereals, man. It's awesome. This chapter was a lot more serious in tone, and I didn't feel like the jokes messed up the stakes at all. This chapter did take me 3 hours and 43 minutes. I don't know if I just play slow, but it should not have been that long. There are some scenes that are unnecessary as it was just there for the characters to crack jokes. Other than that, this chapter is pretty good, and even though it didn't grab me yet, this game was getting better, which was nice. So I went on as a naive little child having no idea what I was getting myself into. At this point, you are probably wondering why I say this game sucks, because apart from pacing and tone issues, I'm complimenting this game. Well, this is why. This is where the game starts going downhill and the negatives start to outweigh the positives for me. I didn't really care about the main cast yet, and I feared that would be the main issue going forward. Little did I know it was going to be everything else this game did. We didn't go into chapter 2 after chapter 1. We went into the chapter 1 intermission. There is an intermission for every chapter I've played so far. And look, I'm fine with interludes or intermissions in gacha and story games in general. I'm excited for chapter 70X in Honkai Impact, and I liked most EX chapters before it. But an intermission after every chapter is a bit excessive, don't you think? It also seems like you're trying to elongate your game, especially since there's an intermission after the prologue, which is very unnecessary. It's the prologue we just started, and why wasn't that just in the prologue? These intermissions have little tasks to do, like discover certain shops around the city, which I don't know why Hoyoverse didn't have you discover all the shops in the prologue and instead spaced it out in these intermissions, but whatever. Some of these tasks, though, are 30-minute to hour-long endeavors, and it just begs the question, why was this an intermission? This could have easily been a main chapter with how long it is, and it has really important information. Perhaps the most important information yet with Hollow Zero. Hollow Zero is described as the first ever Hollow to hit the world. This Hollow also destroyed Eridu, hence New Eridu, and we find out that Eridu is where Bell and Weiss lived. When we're in Hollow Zero, we see this huge ethereal that we've never seen before, codenamed Nineveh. We see this character named Miyabi try to go after it, as well as her team. We also find out that something might be controlling the ethereals. This could have all made for a fun and engaging second chapter. We're learning more about the main threat of this world as well as the main cast. But this is only an intermission for some reason, and the chapter 2 we did get, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll get to that later. After Hollow Zero and some more stuff I didn't care about, we get to a part where we play as Weiss instead of Belle for the first time. Belle goes off somewhere and Weiss learns that a hollow has opened up in the place that Belle was going to. Uh-oh. Now we need to go on an emergency rescue for Belle. Something might have happened to her. We find out that Belle was fine this entire time. She was evacuating other people from the hollow this whole time. No corruption, no nothing, and the game just continued on like it never even happened. Why was this in the game? Nothing changed after this happened. This didn't lead to anything. Everything was the same as it was before this even happened. In my mind, I just wasted 30 minutes. Between this and all the intermissions, I was starting to think this game was trying to waste your time and wanted you to play it for as long as possible, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Of course, this feeling didn't go away, it only got stronger as after this, I was level gated. Yep, after 3 hours of an intermission full of things I mostly didn't care about, they then level gated me before I could get into chapter 2. Wow, this game's amazing. Please, ZZZ, I just want to get into your second chapter. I've never fought so hard to get into the second chapter of a video game. Please. So I got to Internaut level 20, did the required quest in order to level up, and then I finally got started with chapter 2. But if you think I'm done complaining about intermissions, you'd be wrong, because there's one more thing. There are also intermissions in the chapters themselves. Why? What made you guys think that was a good idea? Even though these intermissions weren't as bad as the intermission after chapter 1, this is still crazy. Imagine you are in a chapter of the story and you're getting invested. The story's getting good and everything's going great. Then the game yanks you out of it and makes you complete combat quests for about 10 to 20 minutes, then puts you right back in the story like nothing happened. That was my experience, and it created an intense tonal shift, especially since chapter 1 was dark and serious with the Vision storyline. Oh my word, Vision is going to blow up a ton of people using explosives that he attached to a train. We need to stop Vision and that train now. The train could get there at any moment and hundreds of lives would be lost. But before that, want to do some simulation training? How about a coffee break? You deserve it, champ. It broke some of the tension and immersion for me, honestly. Okay, I did some more research and it seems that they do this because the chapters are split into 2 parts, which is really weird to me. 1, if the full chapters come out in this patch, why'd you split it into 2? And 2, this just seems like a lot of unnecessary steps for no reason. The chapter's just over 2 hours long. There's no need to split it into 2 parts. This isn't some 7-hour spectacle like PGR chapter 17. What are we doing here? Real talk though? Who wants to be stopped this much? I know I didn't. You start the prologue and then there's an intermission mid-prologue. You start the prologue and then there's an intermission. You start chapter 1, you get an intermission mid-chapter. You finish chapter 1, get an intermission after, and then you get level gated. This sounds like a mess to me even describing this. It's more intermission than main story content at this point. I think they should have just put all the intermission stuff in the prologue, or make some of the intermission stuff optional like the simulation training. Would it make for a much longer prologue? Yes, but would it make for a game that flows better? Absolutely. Oh my word. I much prefer that over getting interrupted every 2 seconds. Now that I've calmed down, I'm finally ready to talk about Chapter 2. Yeah, Chapter 2, we finally made it. It only took like 4 hours, but we finally did.
The story for ZZZ is actually very, very good. Even Chapter 2 story with the construction company is very good.
Listen, man, all love. I watch your content, you're entertaining, and if you love ZZZ, all power to ya. Hope you have a great time. That goes for all of you watching as well, by the way. I'm one guy with opinions. Don't let my opinions ruin your enjoyment of the game. If you love this game, that's amazing. That being said, as someone with the opposite opinion, I'm curious what you see in Chapter 2, because this chapter is not good. Let's start with the good of Chapter 2. It wasn't padded out, it still took 3 hours, but there weren't any unnecessary scenes and it felt well paced. And the mecha fight cutscene at the end was cool. I wish there was more. I sent this message to my friend while I was playing Chapter 2, and I still think it's true. Over half of this chapter was side quests disguised as a main chapter. Bellabog Industries wants us to find drills or pile drivers, I don't exactly remember, and bring all 3 back to them. We say yes, and wacky hijinks ensue when it turns out that the pile drivers gained personalities for a reason that we don't know, that was never explained, and so we have to calm the pile drivers down, and we even become bros with one of them. My favorite was when this woman pile driver, who was given the name Greta, fell in love with a building she named Mr. White, and after accidentally destroying it and all of the rubble piled on her, Grace told Greta that the rubble was Mr. White hugging her. I'm sorry, should we be taking this seriously? 'Cause I won't. I can't. This is Looney Tunes humor. What? After the chapter ends, Grace even tells us that Greta made a statue of Mr. White, and we had to place it on a display stand by our bed. What is happening in this game? The chapter gets a bit better in the second half, and by a bit better, I mean teeny bit better, where Kaleda tells us her dad was the president of Bellabog Industries and abandoned his daughter after embezzling money, only to find out that Cordelia's dad's disappearance may not be that simple. While I appreciate Hoyoverse adding this, they wanted to make this game a more emotional experience, I did not care one bit. The reason why I liked Nekomata and the reveal that she was part of the Red Fang game was impactful was because we spent one-on-one time with her character, got to know her better, and in some cutscenes, we can even see her inner turmoil of should I get revenge on these guys or should I help them? We don't spend time with Kaleda. This whole chapter she's talking with her teammates, reacting to the wacky hijinks by saying, "Wow, that's crazy." She felt more like a client than someone I was rooting for. And I'm supposed to care about her dad abandoning her as a child? I'm not saying that it's not sad. It is. But this is like a random stranger trauma dumping you on the street, leaving you a bit confused because you're sad, but why are you telling me this? We don't know each other. I guess that combined with the intense tonal shift from wacky Looney Tunes hijinks to child abandonment was a bit jarring, in hindsight was a bit funny, and made me not care as much. Or maybe I'm just heartless, I don't know. If you wonder what happens at the end, nothing really happens. We don't get clarification on what happened to Kaleda's dad, and the chapter just ends. There is nothing to this chapter. No stakes, it's just side quests and a sad backstory with humor that I found to be too ridiculous to enjoy or take anything else in the chapter seriously. It's a far cry from chapter 1, and I remind you, I didn't love that one either. I just thought it had a decently cohesive storyline that was a little heartwarming. So it's safe to say, unfortunately, I wasn't loving the story of this game so far. Wait a minute, there's an intermission before an interlude?
Yes?
But isn't the definition of an interlude an in-between?
Yes?
Then why is there an intermission?
Why are you asking so many questions? Just play the game.
That's like if Chapter 70X were to come out and we said, oh, such an amazing chapter, can't wait for Chapter 8. Then Hoyoverse says, no, this arc's not over, the next chapter is actually 70X. Anyways, despite that one little thing, this chapter's intermission wasn't nearly as bad as the chapter 1 intermission. It was actually going pretty quickly, only taking 10 to 20 minutes with a few combat challenges. Wow, I may actually get to the chapter 2 interlude at a pretty good pace, and I'm level gated. There it is. This is where my time with ZZZ abruptly ends, because I was level 24 and needed to get to level 27. I started doing that, but then I realized I had no motivation to continue. For the past 7 hours, I had no fun at all, and for the other 4 hours, it was okay. The constant intermissions and level gating finally broke me, and I was getting a bit annoyed. That gave me 400 XP. Okay, at this rate, we'll get to level 27 in 3 days. So I decided to drop the game. At the end of chapter 2, we saw an ethereal we've never seen before, and it messed with Belle's eyes a bit. Weiss said he could look into it, and I think that's where the chapter 2 interlude is going, but I don't care anymore. There are a few intriguing things about this game, but they're too few and far between unnecessary scenes, padded out dialogue, and boring stuff that I don't care about. I ended up not caring about the things I once cared about because they stalled so much with the intermissions, level gating, etc. Do you guys want me to play your game for as long as possible, or create an engaging and fun gacha game? Because I can't tell anymore. So what do you guys think? Is my anger premature? I realize this is only chapter 2. Chapter 0 to 3 came out and the game released in 1.0, so maybe things got better in future updates. I'm already seeing it. In the journey section, from chapter 2 interlude onwards, there are a lot less intermissions and a lot more story, which is great because that's my biggest complaint so far. I do have some more good things to say about it. The combat's really fun, the UI during combat is clean, the cutscenes are animated well, it's very expressive, and the music is good. That's about it though, and trust me, I wish I had more. The formatting of this story is absolutely atrocious, and the story itself, while not as bad, is not that great in my opinion, and those are the two most important things in a game for me. I'm open to trying it again someday because the formatting gets better, and I hear the story gets better too, but right now, I need a break. If you want to see me continue this game in the future, press the like button and subscribe. That's all I wanted to say, just wanted to rant about my experience for a bit. See you next time.